Whether President Trump should be afforded a state visit when he comes to the UK. Scotland's former First Minister, now the SNP's Foreign Affairs spokesman, Alex Salmond, questions what shared values we have with someone such as President Trump. Alex Salmond is with me now. Welcome to you. You warned Theresa May against cozying up to Donald Trump. Now, in your time as First Minister, you did cosy up to Donald Trump. So is this a question of a cosy up spurned?
Well, I didn't rush to see him within 7 days of taking office and offer him a state visit to Scotland. Donald Trump was investing in the country. I like investment in the country. And I did manage to maintain a certain even-keel relationship with him for 5 years. In fact, he called me the greatest politician on the planet at one stage.
Except for him.
But then, of course, as soon as you say no to Donald Trump, as soon as you say, no, we can't do that, we disagree with that, you can't dictate planning policy in Scotland, then, of course, you go from being the greatest politician on the planet to Mad Alec destroying Scotland with no intervening period whatsoever. And I'm merely cautioning, with the benefit of this experience, this is exactly what's going to happen to Theresa May. And not being able to identify that Donald Trump operates in his own self-interest and in what he perceives the interests of the United States to be is totally remarkable. And when it comes to a trade deal, Donald Trump will take Theresa May to the cleaners.
Your argument was over golf courses, and he actually ended up putting out full-page advertisements against you at election time.
No, that wasn't about golf courses. No, I thought the golf course was a good idea, and a public inquiry thought it was a good idea. The problem
but then
was,
you put some windmills up there.
No, but there was a proposal to have 11 demonstrator turbines to demonstrate offshore wind technology in Aberdeen Bay, which everybody thought was a grand idea, £200 million investment. But the Donald thought it might interrupt the view from his golf course several miles up the road. Now, actually, you'd had to stand in the fourth tee on stilts and crink your neck to see them. But that didn't get in the way of the Donald demanding that somebody else's £200 million investment didn't go ahead just in case it interfered with the view from his golf course. I'm afraid that's the sort of logic you get into with Donald, and therefore you just have to at some point say, look, no. And if somebody had said that to him perhaps when he was a boy, then things might have been a lot better for the world. But look, I don't understand why the Prime Minister doesn't think the same thing is going to happen to her. And as soon as there's a clash of interests, she'll have the choice of either being totally subservient to whatever views coming out of the White House, or alternatively having to bow and get the same irrational reaction from Donald Trump as he's done in history.
What you're really saying is you can't win with Donald Trump. He is the President of America. Surely we've got to try and have good relations to get something
and the
out
point
of
I made, look, I thought Justin Trudeau, also a fairly novice Prime Minister, actually demonstrated how you should deal with Donald Trump. In a perfectly business-like way, in a perfectly business-like press conference, he stated, look, we're going to disagree on certain things. There are areas Canada's not changing our approach to asylum seekers, and showed exactly how you do it and maintain self-respect. Theresa May dashed across the Atlantic to hold hands with the President and offered him a state visit within 7 days of him taking office, something that wasn't accorded to Dwight Eisenhower.
So arguably she needs a close relationship with the administration because of Brexit.
And the problem is, Donald Trump may be many things, but he's not stupid. Donald Trump knows what Theresa May said about him when he was just a candidate. He knows that the Foreign Secretary said he wouldn't go to New York in case he was mistaken for him. He knows all these things. And the idea that Donald Trump is so foolish as to be taken in by the flummery of a state visit and therefore will change his policy as a result, what will happen is, because of the weak position that Theresa May has put herself into by invoking Article 50 nonsensically before knowing what the agreement's going to be, she's desperate for a trade deal. The last thing you do with Donald Trump is signal your desperation, and certainly you should never, ever negotiate with him from a position of weakness. That's what the Prime Minister
Now, it still looks as though the state visit is going to go ahead this summer, in spite of the vote in Parliament yesterday. Can Scotland, the Scottish Government, keep him out of Scotland?
No is the straight answer to that. And I thought the petitioners, the 2 million or so petitioners, actually put it very well. The mistake is offering the state visit. I actually think it's quite likely they'll try to take the state visit out of London. because, you know, the
And we know he wants to play golf at Balmoral.
Yes, and we also know that, well, at least we're told in the press, that he wants to pick and choose the members of the royal family who he meets. He doesn't want to meet Prince Charles in case he gets a lecture on climate change. I think a lecture on climate change might do Donald the world of good as it happens. But this is the problem Theresa May has got herself into. She would be wise before the embarrassment of a state visit, and it will be a substantial embarrassment to this country, it'll be hugely divisive, actually takes place, to cut our losses, to downgrade it to a business-type relationship, to follow the example of Justin Trudeau and try to get a relationship which allows this country to hold its head up high and doesn't fawn to the most erratic president of the United States in history.
OK, Alex, I'm going to have to leave it there.
Donald Trump insulted a Gold Star family whose Muslim son died in Iraq fighting for America. This is just more proof that Trump is a raging Islamophobe who hates Muslims. Okay, wait a minute. You're telling me that out of Trump versus Hillary, it's Trump that Muslims should be angry with? Hillary Clinton voted for the attack on Iraq, a war that led to the deaths of well over 100,000 Muslims. A war that displaced millions of Muslims. Hillary Clinton oversaw the attack on Libya.
We came, we saw, he died.
An act of regime change that led directly to the displacement of over 400,000 Libyans, almost all of them Muslims. Of these, thousands of Muslim refugees have drowned at sea trying to escape the hellhole that Hillary Clinton's policies helped create. Hillary Clinton supported arming jihadist rebels in Syria, a policy that led to a country which is comprised of 90% Muslims being almost completely ruined. Hillary Clinton was responsible for policies that created ISIS. She helped transfer weapons to ISIS.
The disastrous, absolutely disastrous intervention in Libya, the destruction of the Gaddafi government, which led to the occupation of ISIS, of large segments of that country, weapons flows going over to Syria, being pushed by Hillary Clinton into jihadists within Syria, including ISIS. That's there in those emails.
ISIS has killed or displaced tens of thousands of Muslims. So let me get this straight. Donald Trump is a danger to the world and represents a huge threat to Muslims because he called for a temporary restriction on immigration. But Hillary Clinton, the individual whose policies led directly to the death and displacement of millions of Muslims, is the progressive candidate who Muslims should support. This doesn't even take into account future wars in the Middle East that Hillary will launch. In 2008, Hillary said that she would attack Iran and, quote, totally obliterate a country comprised of 75 million Muslims.
And I want the Iranians to know that if I'm the president, we will attack Iran. We would be able to totally obliterate them.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't recall Trump saying he would, quote, totally obliterate any country. Never mind one that's 99% Muslim. Hillary Clinton hates Muslims. She's consistently supported policies that ruin Muslim countries, policies that have killed and displaced millions of Muslims. Hillary is clearly a way bigger threat to Muslims than Donald Trump could ever be. Yet all we hear about in the media is how Donald Trump hates Muslims. So Muslims, if you want a president whose policies have wrecked the lives of untold numbers of Muslims, then vote for Hillary Clinton.